the side path on Henry W. to the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail is near the intersection we were just discussing. I don't know if is it on the agenda to discuss otherwise? I'm not sure that I've followed that closely enough, but I just wondered if that trail connection is going to go straight across the road between sort of Village Pizza, County Physical Therapy, and that auto body shop and connect straight to the rail trail, or if it's going to jog over on the street, if this is something we have clarity on yet or not.
I did an inspection there, and there's only really one decent place that to go across.
There's like a row of parking right now. I was there 45 minutes ago, so I took a look at it as well.
Right now, you know, the engineers are still they're still looking at it. They're going to design it, but right now, and Michelle can weigh in too, the attorneys are finalizing the easement between the property owners and the village, and they're going to give an easement. There's going to be a signal light that goes in there, and the trail is going to cross directly on the south side of Henry W. And then it's going to like jog across that opening for, I think, where Village Pizza is, and then cut directly across between the two properties and connect with the rail trail right there.
Awesome.
That's the plan. And you know, it's being paid for with Hudson River Valley Greenway is going to give some money to the village, and then the village is going to it's not going to cost the town or village anything, and there'll be a direct connection, so it'll be safer, and people can then also, you know, access Village Pizza. So it's kind of we're doing away with that jog on Mulberry and Church. That was, you know, originally planned because it's safer to cross there, but now that the light's going in and people aren't going to leave the shared use path or the bike lanes to do that little jog, everyone just goes straight down. So they're trying to do better design for what people want and are going to do whether or not it's safe.
Good. Awesome. Thanks for the update.
All right, I just tried to insert that in. I inserted that in as agenda item number 3 there. So hopefully I got that. Hopefully I got that correctly. Yeah. And Neil, do you have any other items to add since we've last met?
No other updates.
Okay. So the other item, and Michelle, chime on in if you have any more news on this one, was that Tim wrote me. I can't remember if he wrote the whole bike ped list or if he just wrote me, but he wrote to say that the village would like to ask the county to take over sidewalk snow removal in the business district of the village, because there's just been a lot of grumbling by some of the owners or the renters of those properties where they have to get out there so quick and shovel, but then when the plows come, it just, you know, covers up their sidewalks again, and they have to get out there and shovel again. And some of them were, you know, writing letters to the editor and you know, expressing their dissatisfaction. Some of them are elderly, and it's, you know, putting them at risk of heart attacks and other factors. So it seems like the rational thing to do would be to have government do that snow removal in the heart of the business district. But of course, then it gets the question of who has the money and the equipment and the resources. So as I recall from the message from Tim to me, it was basically saying it's probably just really unlikely that the county would agree to this, but that it doesn't have to stop the village from asking the county to take charge of sidewalk snow removal. Did I get that mostly right, Michelle?
Yes, perfect. And, having just moved from a townhouse to a village street that actually have the county plows come by, and I learned the hard way not to get out there too early because they'll just come and plow and everything you worked really hard for is gone. So, especially for our downtown businesses, it's an impossible situation because the sidewalks down there and there's not enough space, and we had a lot of snow this year, and of course we're talking about it more. Last year we didn't have as much snow, but I think it's good we're talking about it because in an ideal world we would be able to just keep up on it ourselves, but it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that it's too expensive, frankly. So I think this ask is a good one, and we can be that government that just keeps asking, and maybe one of these times they'll say yes. So we'd love your feedback there.
Is it being positioned as part of the Empire State Trail and therefore should have some additional responsibility? Because right now the state does plow the from Putt Corners all the way to the beginning of the Hudson Valley Rail Trail, which goes all the way then up to the walkway, and the walkway is taken care of. So there's already a very nicely plowed by other entities.
That's a good point, Michael, and I think we should include that. I don't.
Because I've come back and that last snow, that right at Putt Corners Road, right as you enter New Paltz, it wasn't plowed, and that sidewalk was 2.5 feet deep, and so.
Right. I think it's great, Michael, that you're bringing that up because it's so common for it to come up in discussion that Henry W. Du Bois is the Empire State Trail, but the pedestrian section goes right down Main Street as it should, and so pony up, state or others who are getting money from the state and maintain the Empire State Trail pedestrian section. Never mind, and it's you have to be focusing on there's disability rights, people who depend on the sidewalk being plowed in order to get by in a wheelchair or otherwise. And so, if it's going to be the Empire State Trail, then whoever the state or the county that's delegated responsibility by the state, really legally ought to be responsible for it.
I'm wondering about what other municipalities do, because many years ago, I had heard, I never confirmed it, that Rosendale had a piece of equipment that could clean the sidewalks off after the plow dumped snow on them. I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm wondering about equipment, because between the plow, the huge plow, and shovels, there should be something else that can deal with the snow that's piled up right alongside the curbs and right on the edge of the sidewalk. And I would think that our roads people would know what's available, because if there is such a thing, we should have one of them or two of them.
Yes, it is, but it's a matter of money and not just to purchase said equipment, but to have, to pay for the hours that it takes to do it. When I first thought about it too, I thought too, this should be simple. We can just get out there and do it. But then when you really sit down and crunch the numbers like Tim did, and I can't remember the numbers right now. And Tim is excellent at crunching these types of things with numbers and, giving us, the hard number on how much it's going to cost. And it's jaw dropping. So.
Well, shouldn't we know though, because there are a lot of merchants along the street, maybe people would kick in. I mean, are we talking about millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, thousands of dollars? I think that information should be public, that if there's an option. I can
find the email if I just jaunt off to my emails real quick, but it might take a minute.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be this second, but I just think we should know what we're talking about. when something that the village has decided is monumentally too much, we, the village taxpayers, should know what we're talking about. That's just a ballpark idea,
The goal, though, is not to raise taxes, as we haven't. And also, I had another point on the tip of my tongue, and now I have forgotten it.
No, that's fine. I just think that that kind of information is useful for people to be able, in their own minds, to make decisions. And so we just should know figures.
I recall some number in the low tens of thousands for snow removal from the sidewalks when the mounds get too big with trucks and whatnot. I don't know if that's exactly what we're talking about, or we're talking about just routine sidewalk clearing whenever there's a storm. But I don't have the official numbers now.
Yeah, well, 10,000, so we've got a lot of, that's like a couple of bucks per person.
And Michael's point about the Empire State Trail also would seem to warrant folding in the town, making the same ask, because the Empire State Trail goes all the way on the sidewalks from the Thruway overpass all the way down to Gilded Otter to the pedestrian bridge. And having, we just moved in June, but having lived up that way in Cherry Hill neighborhood for 10 years, and back when Peter Kaufman was still alive, he would bring this up all the time, since he lived up that way too. There were just some major sections that were very predictably and reliably unplowed, kind of just below the Alfondre Green building that is across the street from Joelyn Road. And I can't remember exactly which properties, but there are just certain properties where whoever was the renter or the tenant just wasn't, or the renter or the property owner just weren't, they just weren't shoveling at all, never mind, or snow blowing at all, never mind not doing it promptly. And it's a serious safety risk for people in wheelchairs and elderly people who really need to be on the sidewalk. So again, this is now Governor Cuomo and the state. It's Empire State Trail. So it would seem that might be the best leverage to try to get what we need on our main street in our town.
I love that route, and I feel, Michael, that was just a really smart way of thinking about it. I found the quote. So in 2016, the board at the time looked into it, and it was $187,500. So that was a quote in 2016 to, take care of the downtown business and cart away snow as well, which is a big request. So brainstorming ideas was to create a snow district. Then only the properties in the district pay for the service. Blah, blah, blah.
You're not talking about equipment, are you? I'm curious about whether there is specialized equipment
Yes,
that,
yeah.
I think Michelle alluded to it, but when there's no place to pile the snow, you have to pick it up in a front loader, put it in a dump truck, and take it away somewhere. And that's what's so expensive with that kind of snow removal, because there just isn't a place to put the snow. You have the sidewalk, you have the street, you have the building. There's nowhere for the snow to go. You can get it out of the street, and it's on the sidewalk. You pile it from the sidewalk into the street. And so in a real big snowstorm, most municipalities and a lot of cities, their public works department go out with the front loaders and they start chewing away those. They usually do it overnight. And that's probably that may be why it's so expensive, because it's overnight, because it's
overtime.
Yeah, it's OT.
Yeah. Right. So I have to go back and look at the email from Tim, but if I recall correctly, we're not being asked to write a formal letter. We're just being asked for our input to share directly, with the village. So depending on what format he wanted it in, do you think it's best? I can look it up as we're talking too, but for you just to transmit it over to him or Michelle, or I'm assuming otherwise the default would be that I would take care of it and just write Tim directly and maybe copy you?
It's up to you. I mean, I could certainly take it off your plate if you'd like, and just relay that idea to pitch.
Yeah, why don't we have that be the default if you don't mind? And I'll just look up the message right now and see if I can find it quick, to see if he specifically asked me. Yeah, he just said, ask your members for feedback on this while you're at it. I'm sure it's a long shot ask. Yeah, so if you don't mind just relaying that back to him, then, and yeah, maybe I could also do it too if I remember, and he'll hear it twice. But yeah, that would be great.
Okay, great.
Okay. So that's item number 4 on the, if you're looking live at the agenda on Google Docs. So the new item was something that Lou just brought up in an email to me and to our email list. So you guys should have also probably seen it in the last couple of days. So I'll turn the floor over to you, Lou, to share
Sure.
what you were thinking.
Totally happy to. The idea just occurred to me this past weekend. It was, I know this is, a governmental meeting we're having here, and this is sort of an extra governmental way of funding things. But I wondered whether there'd be individuals creating GoFundMe campaigns might be a catalyst for certain like pet projects. I'm thinking the Harvest Hills connector, and there's a few other places like connecting to River to Ridge from the street I'm on, Woodlot. If creating campaigns to fund these specific connectors would give individuals an opportunity to voice their support for the project, as well as put some financial backing behind it, and create possibly an impetus to, begin these projects. So it's sort of funny timing that I'm bringing this up now. I also need to say on sort of the other side of this that we just went into a contract on a house in Saugerties. We've been renting our house here, and the owners of the house want the house back. So unfortunately, in a few weeks, we'll be, unfortunately, because I love this area, but we won't be strangers, we're only a half hour away. Mm-hmm. And the best trails are in New Paltz. So I would love to see all these projects continue. I don't think I'm the right person to create these GoFundMe campaigns for that reason, though I would love to be a supporter and promoter of them. And would love to hear feedback. I don't think that these things should be solely funded by individuals. I mean, as a society, we should build infrastructure that we all need. And we have mechanisms for funding projects that I'm sort of don't want to say that we should turn these types of projects into something which can only happen if they're sufficiently funded by a crowdsourcing campaign. But maybe there's a good balance between building public support and getting other people involved via these campaigns with this type of mechanism.
A question I wondered about with a GoFundMe, tell me, if you say your goal is to raise $20,000 for a project and you only raise $5,000, and so you can't do the project, is the money returned to the donors, or what happens in that case?
I think GoFundMe might be one of the incremental funding campaigns where you don't have to meet a specific goal in order for it to be accomplished. But I would say we should look specifically into that, and we should probably also have a fallback plan that if this particular project isn't actionable, the funds go to into a balance for building out other trail connectors or bike ped projects. So it's very clear that anything that was contributed would ultimately end up in one of these types of projects. I guess a question we could ask ourselves about this would be, who should initiate a campaign like this, and at what stage in the project would it be appropriate to do so? I could see it being fairly early stage. Like, I would like to see this connector happen. Like there's the Cannon Road, Old Cannon Road style project that could easily be brought back into the trail network. It seems to be in still a road on the maps.
Where's that? Which one are you referring to?
From the end of Cannon Road.
Oh, you mean Canaan Road?
Canaan Road, thank you.
Yeah. That's actually the old Albany Post Road. We changed its name to Butterville and then to Canaan. And then that right of way actually intersects the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail and continues right to go into Elting. That's an excellent idea, because that's the only route of flight for people in that lowland area. When that big 100-year flood happened, those people had nowhere to go. You could still traverse it. You can physically walk up it, and you can mountain bike on it and stuff like that. But
No, wait, I'm still, because I live over near there. You're talking about where Butterville turns into Canaan?
Yes, it turns into Canaan, and Canaan dead ends.
Yeah.
And becomes a dirt road.
That goes all the way to Craigswood.
And it actually continues beyond Craigswood. If you can follow it into the woods, and there's a lot of down trees, and it connects to where the Dietz have their major properties, and then that last driveway exits into the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail and to Springtown Road.
Got it.
Carol Johnson at the Elting Public Library gave a wonderful history of the Albany Post Road.
Yeah.
But it's an historic road, and that's a perfect connector right there.
And fun fact is that I understand that MSNBC celebrity Chris Hayes lives right down there at the dead end of Old Canaan Road, where it turns to dirt road. So hopefully he would be an ally, but who knows? So I had a couple of thoughts. One of them is, I was having many conversations with Neil Battez, who it looks like had to jump off to get to another town meeting tonight. But he, for him, anytime he mentioned his hopes for the voters passing the tax on selling property to fund the kind of conservation, I forget the open space, what's the phrase? I forget exactly what it's called, but it's this open space conservation fund. Anytime he brought it up to me before the vote, the first examples he was always bringing up were, now we'll have the funding for for a lot of these connector trails. And so it may be that right now we don't need private funding for that, because pretty soon we'll have this infusion during this COVID-inspired housing boom, where there's going to be all this property tax. It's a small percentage for the people, and if you sell a house below the median average of a house, you don't pay any of it. So it's only for the wealthy house purchases that the new owners have to pay. So there should be this, an infusion of funds, and then once that money starts building up, I know at least Neil has a vision of using those funds to do conservation in part. I mean, it's designed for farms and trails and other, conservation, preserving farmland and preserving, wild preserved land. But that's certainly something he has in mind. So that's one thought. And the second one is just that I imagine that there's some legal complexities about private funding for public projects that need planning and then approval depending on what lands they are. But I imagine it's that there's many past examples where privately funded campaigns like this just transfer the money over to the municipalities, and then they use it to offset some of their costs, but it would have to, be very coordinated with village, town, and or county to make sure that any private funding were legit for some of these projects. The final thought that as soon as you brought it up, the final thought that I just had was, and I've been thinking about this a few times over the last year, was Harry Lipstein, the head of Water Street Market, because he approached Neil and KT and Tim and me and a couple of others and was super gung-ho about fundraising with some of the wealthy local and not local wealthy business community leaders to really follow a bold vision of how to make the village much more bike friendly. But then he got all passionate about the Denizen Theater, which was awesome. And I was pretty occupied building that, acting in it, and, lining up productions. So I'm not sure if he still would be committed to, but that could generate way more money than a GoFundMe if he's still got that on his radar screen. So yeah, those are the thoughts that I had: the conservation fund, the regulatory hurdles, and other wealthy donors.
Yeah, I was thinking actually less the funding side of things, like aggregate amount of money raised, and more the way for people to show their support for a project. Even if we're like collecting $5 donations from people, and building awareness about the possibility of things. Basically, anyone you see out walking or biking is interested in more opportunities to do this. Creating a way for people to get involved without, sort of like a low commitment level of being involved, not, Monday night meetings, but signing on in some mechanism to get updates and be asked to join meetings when it's helpful. It strikes me that there's plenty of people to activate for this cause if we gave them a mechanism to get involved. So just food for thought. I wasn't looking for any kind of, action on this. I just wanted to plant the seed if it was useful.
Oh, I'm sad that you're moving to Saugerties. I know it's not far away, but are you telling us you're not going to be a member of our bike bed committee? Gosh, dang it.
Well, I'll still be interested in what's happening here, and I'll still be coming down to ride. So we don't plan on being strangers to the area. But I imagine I'll look for opportunities to create trails up there as well. So this isn't officially my last appearance, but
Darn.
I guess the refugees from New York City haven't discovered Saugerties. They stop at New Paltz.
Yeah, they have, and they're calling it Saugerstock.
Yeah, we're sort of halfway between Woodstock and Saugerties, West Saugerties, if you will. So.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, we need good bike ped kindred spirits everywhere. So I know there's some good initiatives up that way already, and the folks up there, I'll be happy to have you on board
Thank
up
you.
there too. I know one thing that is coming to mind just from past years was, I think Michael was the one who shared it, that Saugerties had a really great map of various road routes that you could take to kind of ride relatively safely on country roads. Do you remember that, Michael?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. Yeah.
I'm sure I could dig it up, but yeah, there was whoever the folks who built it, they did it right. It's like a professional map. It's official. It's and I think there was signage on some signage on the roads too, with street signs. But it's a physical and a digital map that for folks in Saugerties looking to figure out where are good rides to take. That and we were thinking about doing that several years ago. And if anybody wants to bring that idea back to life here in New Paltz, it would kind of be mimicking Socrates and trying to get, publicize and make official various road routes for riders in New Paltz. That's kind of the main thing I think of when I think of our connection with Socrates and bike ped issues. So other items on our agenda for tonight were really just the items that we've been talking about every month. So I guess we should get, though, before that, maybe bump up what's currently number 8, and I'll bump it up to number 6 because the clock is ticking. So we've been talking about doing something for April 24th, Celebrate Trails Day. And as I understand from our past meeting, the idea was that we're not going to try to pull off something really big. It would more just be spreading the word to, some email lists to Janelle has, the bully pulpit for, Climate Smart and newsletters, and just kind of spreading the word that, hey, this is a day called Celebrate Trails Day because of the pandemic. We're not organizing some mass event, but go out on the trails. And if you're on social media, here's a hashtag, and just share some photos of yourself enjoying trails. And that seemed to be kind of the gist of what we were thinking of. Do I have that right?
Dan, I recall long ago, we organized, not with a lot of detail, but we made it known that people were going to meet in a central place and go to the walkway, bike to the walkway. And the advantage of that is that people who felt a little bit uneasy on roads by themselves could be part of a pod of people going up the roads. And I'm just thinking that the trail conditions are so much improved now since that time that that might be one aspect of it. I mean, people could do what they wanted and everybody do their own thing, but I think that the committee itself could at least come to some conclusion, meet at Stewart's or something like that, or the other side, and, encourage people to go as a group, especially people with kids, that don't want to be out there by themselves.
And for you particularly, the idea of getting over to the walkway is a valuable part.
I think that, a ride to the walkway for people who have the time to do it in the light. What day of the week is Trails Day anyway? Anybody know?
Saturday.
It's the 24th, right? Yeah.
So is that, what day of the week is that? A Saturday, Sunday?
Saturday the 24th. Yep.
Oh, Saturday the 20th.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, of course, yeah. It almost always rains. That's the history. Maybe I'm wrong, but you could make it for Saturday with a date of Sunday. But I'm not thinking about that. We do a lot of work for it, but that if we do any publicity for it, that could be something suggested that one group of people could try that trail and bring it to their attention.
I'm trying to remember at our last meeting, was there somebody that stepped up to lead this? Like, was it Shanna Marie or?
Shauna just said she could help spread the word with social media. But I thought the idea was like, if we create a flyer or create a date, she would be happy to spread it far and wide to propagate. But I don't think she volunteered to like be in charge of the whole event.
Does the bike ped committee have a liability waiver on hand? I mean, I have like 3 or 4 that I've used in the past for bike rides and stuff. And if you're going to do a ride with other people, it's a good idea to have a waiver that people sign.
I remember from a past ride that you guys were involved with organizing on Huguenot Street that went.
We went to the walkway. Yeah.
The walkway.
I think it was last year.
I went on a different one where it was a
Okay.
couple years ago where we went. I think it was it was tied to
Oh, for Gabby.
anniversary, right?
Yep.
For that, but there might have been one other one where there were just like 6 of us or 8 of us going
Yard
on.
Owl in Gardner.
Yeah, I didn't do that, but
Yeah, we
maybe
did
it was.
that.
Maybe I did. Oh, I think we did like we kind of did like a river to ridge or some kind of. It was or this was this pre-river to ridge. We did kind of like one loop across the river, and then for people who wanted to continue on, they did the second half. And I only did the first part of it with one of my kids, I think. But anyway, I think we had the paper waivers back then on hand. I probably have them on my computer. But what about the COVID factor? Is this is there any anybody feeling nervous about trying to organize in a group ride? Apparently, I just saw a message from my daughter's school saying that the numbers are just spiking like crazy right now in Ulster County.
I sort of liked your idea of people posting it with a hashtag of Celebrate Trails and so that it's a sort of more dispersed kind of thing. I think maybe for this year that's a safer way to handle it, just so we don't gather too many people in one place. I think we're still not out of the woods.
I mean, on the one hand, it's like, one of the least worst things to do during the pandemic is to ride on a bike with other people. It's probably a very low transmission rate, but out of an abundance of caution, we are kind of a government related body, and so I just it's the elephant in the room. I don't necessarily have a firm answer about that, but I wanted to raise it. Do others agree with Mark, or do others kind of think that it's a safe enough activity that we shouldn't shy away from?
Well, I think I first of all, I wasn't thinking that we're going to do a detailed organization of this thing. I thought we could just, in a very casual way, say to the public in a letter to the editor, in an article, whatever. This is the Trail Days. This is, and we have a beautiful, beautiful way to get to the walkway now, with the exception of getting up to putt corners or north or south. I mean, that's the problem. I would love it if somebody with a pickup truck would offer a ride with the bike up to the putt corners for some of us who cannot do that ride anymore. But anyway, apart from that, people don't have to be on top of each other to gather. I mean, just with the idea that that you have fellow cyclists that are going to the bridge. And, I'm not talking about people, thousands of people together. Maybe a dozen people might like to be a group, and they don't have to be on top of each other, but just, a gathering place. That's what I was thinking. And,
Actually,
and publicizing.
Towards that end, I forgot about this. I created a hashtag for Instagram, and it's just, # hike bike New Paltz. And if you post on Instagram, just use it. And the only requirement I was going to suggest is that wherever you go, if it's hikeable or bikeable from New Paltz, that's an adequate candidate for it. And if you want to do a ride, and just people on their own Instagram page can just put that hashtag in there, wherever they're at, they stop someplace. And if you do go that route, the Hudson Valley Rail Trail has a wonderful little bit of single track on the way. It was built by the Boy Scouts by Steve, Pete Bellizzi and the Hudson Valley Rail Trail folks, and it's fun. I mean, it's this nice little thing. It's at the Black Creek there, to sort of, it's maybe half a mile or something like that. And there you've got another Boy Scout bridge. They also built closer to the walkway too. So there's, and I think that's something we can think about trying to do with the local Valley Rail Trail in the long run. There's little extra loops you could make off of those things. But again, it's # hike bike New Paltz. And if you look, I just populated with a few things right now, but you can just sort of see there. And I'm sure you have stuff, I'm sure Mr. Ice has got tons of stuff like his background. If you can get there by bike or hiking from New Paltz, that's a great candidate. So just put your stuff that you already have.
Except the stuff that's secret.
The secret stuff.
And there is some stuff that's secret. So shh,
I'll just chime in because I like the idea of staggering, because I would worry about a gathering, and I worry, would that actually turn people off from wanting to go? I know personally it would turn me off if I knew a bunch of people were going to gather. But I will admit I'm definitely more of the cautious side. New Paltz, our numbers are actually the highest they've ever been. We have an 8.8% rate of COVID right now, which is higher than anywhere. And it's the highest we've ever been since the beginning of the pandemic. So, vigilance is important. So that's just my two cents there.
Mhm.
And I thought, I've been being kind of quiet because I'm out of state for the month of April, so I will not be here to participate in person. I do like the idea of the hashtag and just promoting the idea of, get out on our trails and share photos with each other.
And promote New Paltz,
Yeah, exactly. I don't necessarily even think we have the bandwidth. I don't know. Nobody stepped up and said, "Oh, I'll lead it." If we had somebody.
No.
So
Well, I've done it, so, a bunch of times, so it's not hard for me to consider doing it. Also point out that World Bike Day is coming up on June the 3rd, which is on a Thursday, and hopefully the weather will be much better and COVID will have receded a little bit into the background, and hopefully everybody will have gotten a vaccine by that time too.
isn't that International Bike Naked Week too?
Yes.
All right.
I had actually posted about doing that on the Wallkill Valley Rail
You
Trail.
first, Janelle.
Janelle, I had a little bit of that going on in my Madison, Wisconsin days. It makes me think of Wisconsin. So what is there anything that we as a committee need to be organizing, or is it as simple as one person writes a letter to the editor?
I had volunteered weeks back to write a letter calling attention to some of the bike ped issues, and that letter is underway. It's coming very slowly, but I can sort of, make it an all in and cover this stuff and the hike bike hashtag and the Celebrate Trails Day hashtag, and encourage people to get out, bike, to post with that hashtag, to post on our Facebook page, our Bike Ped Facebook page, and so I can include that in that letter, and I will circulate that to this group before I send it to Hudson Valley One, which is where I was planning to send it. So.
Thank you
Okay.
for that letter, Mark.
What's that?
Thank you for writing the letter.
Well, it's not done yet, but it has been begun. It's
Yeah.
simmering.
Michelle just wrote that she has to go. And then, so that's one approach, is for those who read letters to the editor and the New Paltz Times / Hudson Valley One. Then, Michael, you said something a minute ago that you've done this in the past. Were you referring to kind of spreading the word about an event like this, or?
I posted on a number of different places, and in fact, they even did it through a meetup group, the Mid-Hudson Bicycle Club, which is, I don't know if you guys had met Fred Freed ever, but he was, one of the, longtime bicycling, advocates. He came to New Paltz for, a couple of times to speak at village board meetings and things like that, and support bike infrastructure. I could talk to him and see if, because he's on the board, I think, still of that group, and they do regular events, and see, it's not too difficult to do a meetup group thing. And, we could just say, just sign up for a time, so it's small groups, 5 or 6 people or something. That would be probably the easiest thing and most manageable. I don't know, has anybody, how many people would do it?
How many people would do what? Say it again.
Do
Mark?
actually go on this bike ride on the 24th of April, is that correct?
I'm going to be in the city that day, so I cannot attend. I actually have a job. I'm working that day.
All right.
I'm out.
You're in Wisconsin, right?
Actually, even further afield. Have mountain bike will travel.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen my children in ages, and 2 of them are living in Oregon, so I'm actually headed all the way out there.
Wow, you're biking?
No,
What'd you say, Janelle? You got cut off, I think.
we're taking mountain bikes with us.
Yeah. Wow.
But you're gonna drive the whole way.
Yes,
Wow,
and camp.
that's pretty impressive.
Awesome.
Could I just add about the red tie, right on red thing?
Yeah, well, just before we switch though, so all right, so Mark is gonna do a letter to the editor. Michael, you're gonna talk to the person about whether it makes sense to organize something on a meetup.
Right.
Shauna, offered to kind of spread the word on social media, but the question is like, what is it that she would be spreading? So is it a simple, like, do we need, do we just need like somebody to write up a couple of sentences in a Facebook message with a link to celebrate Trails Day and our hashtag, and then just spread, is that it? Like, just keep it super easy and then just spread it? Or do we need something more than that?
Yeah, I was thinking even just in terms of putting it into the Climate Smart newsletter, what would be how would I contextualize it so it would make any sense? I mean, part of it is about promoting biking as a form of transportation, and that's also, via our trails. So I guess I would try to couch it somewhere there, that we continue to try to move towards complete streets and we celebrate our trails, and maybe even, I mean, clearly they've been a huge source of psychic survival during this past year of COVID. So.
So you want to just make it an invitation for others to post with the hashtag, and for those who are available and would like to go somewhat in a group, we're going to depart from, say, like the Tops parking lot or something. Would that be the easiest place to depart from?
Yeah, or the top of where they're building what are they building up there? Another firehouse with Putt Corners.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if there's no place to park there. At least people could park. They want to bring their bike on a car. The Tops parking.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. That Tops would make sense. Or ShopRite.
Or ShopRite.
Mm.
So
ShopRite in some ways better because you're on the side going out of town.
do you think, Mark, that that within the letters to the editor that you're writing, there might be a few sentences of what you write that we could just kind of lift into a social media post of,
Yep.
You can just write a few sentences about Celebrate Trails Day.
Yeah.
And when you share that with us, we can kind of be clear about like, okay, let's just copy these 3 sentences.
Yeah.
And we can kind of edit both
Absolutely.
your full letter and edit a couple of those sentences, and that'll be it. That'll be what we can ask Shauna, and Michael can do it himself. And once we kind of get the text, then we're good, and we just keep it super easy and just
That's fine.
spread that. Okay,
Yep.
great.
There'll be a paragraph specifically about that, the Celebrate Trails Day and Hike Bike New Paltz, and with the hashtags, and we're encouraging you to get out really anytime, but especially on the 24th. If you get out, post on the website, post on our Facebook page, post.
The only other thing I just was thinking of is if we want to go bigger, it could be that we could just approach one of the New Paltz Times / Hudson Valley One reporters and just say, hey, you want to write a story about Celebrate Trails Day? It's we've got all these trails, and it's a national day. And if you're looking for a story, maybe you can just whip up a story about, with some nice photos of the trails, and fold the Celebrate Trails kind of into a bigger story just about the explosion of usage of trails during the pandemic. Does anybody have a contact with, first of all, is that worth our time to try to pitch that, or do we want to just stick with what we got? And
Well, if Mark's writing a letter, that would be probably the best thing to do, is to promote it to a writer with the things. You know, there used to be a trolley that ran from New Paltz to what was then called, I think New Paltz Landing, which was the
Yeah.
right at the Hudson River crossing from Highland.
Right.
You're actually gonna be taking pretty much that route.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I often think about that trolley. My wife was just saying the other day, there should be a trolley, an electric, an EV trolley that just goes up and down Main Street. And I said, well, there used to be one. Like
Yeah.
the challenge, of course, is any biker knows, is those trolley tracks can be dangerous for a biker. So it's kind of they're not, it's a moot point unless Pete Buttigieg has really big freaking plans. I don't think we have to worry too much about the feasibility of a trolley returning to New Paltz. But
Well, but to sort of on that sort of blue sky dreaming kind of idea, something that I've been wondering about, and I was thinking about this when Neil was on. I'll write him or email him this question. But does anyone know what is planned for any of those properties along there, but most specifically the Agway property right on 32, which is of course right adjacent to the rail trail? It would be a freaking fabulous place to put up a specific parking area for access to the Empire State Trail. People could access the downtown New Paltz on foot or on bicycle. They'd have a great place to park. I don't know, you could bring food trucks in there, it seems like it's a big chunk of land. It's perfectly located to keep people from having to drive into the center of town with their bikes or whatever, or through the center of town with their bikes. They can get to the RDR, the river to ridge. And I have no idea what's up with that property, who owns it,
Well,
because there's, go ahead, Janelle.
some solar parking canopies and EV charging stations and
And Adams Fairacre. They won't have to drive to Kingston to get food.
right.
I love it.
I thought I had
Yeah.
heard.
Well, the Agway did not go broke. What happened was that the owner died and his widow did not want to continue ownership of it. And,
I like that for the better part of the last year, the sign just said permanently.
permanently, I know. I mean, those of us who bought our cat food and dog food and bird food and so forth there now have to go all the way up to True Value. And it's not
I got to
really-
get my holly tone and my plant tone. Now, where am I going to get that stuff now?
Yeah, that's right,
I got no
right.
place to get it.
I thought I had heard. It's too bad Neil and Michelle aren't on right now, but I thought I had heard that there's just proposals or in the works plans for almost all of those transitioning properties on that corridor. Like
In terms of it being developed, you mean into?
Yeah, I just talked to Neil. But he might there might already be like some action there. You might have missed the window, but I'm not sure because it's fuzzy in my brain. I do recall hearing that the shop that used to be Napa, there's proposals to turn that into another apartment complex.
Yeah, Roddy
Yes,
when he bought it,
that's
that's what he
definite.
was doing.
It's definite now.
It's definite. I heard it's definite.
Yeah. But I definitely heard some mention about Agway. I just can't remember if it was another one of the same and it was proposals for yet another apartment complex, or if there's something else that I'm just spacing on.
Right.
But I like your idea. There's the parking at Plains Road for that. It's kind of doubling as Empire State Trail and boat launch, kind of
Right.
parking there. But that's not a huge lot.
Right. And there's a parking lot out at the river to ridge. But again, it's
that's always
limited.
full, so often full.
Yeah.
Bossi's
I mean,
great parking lot.
what's that?
What's that?
The Bossi's is a great parking lot.
Well,
That's
failing the idea with the Agway, perhaps on weekends at least,
Could be advertised.
something could be
as-
going on with the Bossi's. It would need a little better access to the trail. There's sort of a desire line trail that leaves from one corner of the parking lot, or you go out and you walk on Huguenot Street and get to the trail. But you could definitely do the same sort of thing there and encourage people to park there. And you get a couple of food trucks or a coffee truck or whatever to park in the lot, and you encourage show people that that's the place to park and to get onto the trail system from there. And they can go to Rosendale. They can go to the river to ridge. They can ride over to the walkway on the Hudson and back. I mean, that would be a perfect ride from there, like a half day or a 3/4 day ride for most people. So I think we're coming into the nexus of we've got so much great trail opportunity that we could be a destination, place for people that want to ride mountain bikes, road bikes,
Mhm. But,
Well, why don't you
I
talk
think-
with Neil and
Well,
then
Well,
when if we hear anything promising about possibilities for that
Yeah.
property, then we could try to jump quick before it gets snapped up.
Yeah.
But if it's already snapped up, then we have to start thinking about
I
other
think-
potential properties.
I think, Daniel, that we have to think in stages, because I think that eventually they're not going to, that's valuable property. But nothing might happen for 5 years or 10 years. I mean, things can stay vacant for a long time. So it might be an opportunity for a nice demonstration project of what could,
Right.
what could work. But I don't think that we can think that long-term we're going to have that space for bikes.
Right.
But long-term, we've got the rail trail. People
Yeah.
didn't think that would ever happen either.
Right. Shall we move up the hill to Michael's request to talk about the sort of all stop or no right on red? That's what you wanted to bring up?
Yes, I
Michael-
talked to Scott Butler and a few other people, but he's our lieutenant now. And he said if there were specific enforcement things that you had a list of intersections you wanted, any particular enforcement, and to meet with the Captain Lucchese. From his point of view, ending right on red is a great thing because it puts the police in this awkward situation where they have to make a judgment call. And probable cause, as people know, I mean, right now there's a lawsuit was just initiated today against the Arkansas State Police over a probable cause issue where they stopped somebody and they really had no cause to do so. And if the police have no right on red and somebody blows through that intersection or makes that right turn, they violated the law. Right now, a right on red, an officer has to make a judgment whether they stopped adequately. It's supposed to be 2 seconds. Did they do so or not? And did they yield to somebody in the pedestrian right of way or not? If somebody goes through it when there's no right on red, then it's a clear violation and much easier to get a judgment at the courts. So he was very much in favor, and he said talk to Captain Lucchese and get like some statement from him to that effect. And so I've also been talking to Kingston about a couple other intersections they have to do the same, so that we could maybe go to DOT with a number of intersections to get some attention for exactly that.
Do you are you up for talking with Captain Lucchese?
Yeah, he's very reasonable. He's a very nice man. And
So you want to talk to him and give us an update if you're able to get
Sure.
through with him?
Sure. I mean, but I should probably talk to Tim and Neil to make sure they're clear on that as well.
Okay.
And if they wanted to meet with him separately or together, that'd be ideal.
Okay, so you'll talk with Tim and Neil first to conference about the best way to approach
Right. Well, I'm going
Captain
to talk
Lucchese.
to Kingston also, a couple other towns that have a similar kind of situation, including Lloyd, because that intersection where the Lowe's is at, that South Street, there is, there's a right on red right there too, and that's another intersection that's pretty problematical when you try to cross it with a bike.
Okay,
But
great.
positioning it as something that makes the police job easier and clearer is, I think, the way to go with DOT, because bicycle safety is just not enough for them.
Yeah, that's a good way to sort of set it up, to frame the conversation. Excellent. I have just kept the updates about the Henry W. Du Bois project kind of as a regular item, but usually that's something that only Neil has intel on. I'm on the committee, but we haven't had any communication because the last status from last month is just that it's in the ball's in the hands of New York State DOT, and it's a slow process for them to approve. And once they approve, then I guess the construction should begin soon after. And then I have no other updates about the vegetative buffer concerns, about the potential bike pedestrian path that could go in the back of Trans Hudson's proposed project. So unless anybody else has any updates there, and nor do I have any updates about any status of the construction out to 4455. I'm trying to remember, Judy, if the email exchange that you shared, if that was pre-last meeting or if it's since last meeting with the new deputy executive of Ulster County.
Oh, you mean, yeah, that was, we talked about the last meeting, and
Okay.
she just, in a very nice way, defended the timeline, basically, that
Right.
it really takes time. So I considered contacting her this month to see if there was any holdups, like was there some really miserly property owner who was saying no way, and then we could have an action for that person. But I didn't, because I decided I'll wait till next month. What was that? Oh, okay. Yeah, my intention is to check with her in mid-April and
Okay.
see if there are any sticking points that we could, just to sort of keep in touch. Yeah, that was last meeting.
Great. And then these other items were just ones that I've kind of permanently just kept as extra ones in case we wanted to return to them. So this is a very rare situation where unless other people have any other items to bring up or any further thing to say about ones we've already talked about, we actually got to everything. We could either A, end early, or B, start brainstorming or tackling other things that we want to try to make progress on in the coming months. There are many other items too that aren't on this list, but these are some of the ones that have been kind of on the bike ped radar screen of late.
One thing, Dan, is I was just reading from Hudson Valley One several weeks ago, a long letter that I think it was a guy named Larry Winters wrote about talking about the complete streets idea and why we don't have them. And it was a very compelling letter, and brought in the narrowness when you have parking on both sides of the narrow village streets and so on. And I just reminded me that letters column is very useful. And Janelle, did you see the plastics letter by Wendy Rudder? Looks like you could have written it.
As a matter of fact, my letter is going to be printed this week, I think. We both wrote at the same time,
Yeah.
similar letters.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I know Wendy, and I didn't know that she was really involved in that. But anyway, we should just really make use of that. If we see an article that we want to emphasize something, and people read those letters, there's probably a higher readership for the letters than any single article in the issue. They're influential. They're really influential. So one of the things we could do is in the week before the 24th, we could just mention that it's Trails Day, and that we've got, thanks to the hard work of various people who care about it, we've got trails.
Mhm.
Beyond what Mark is writing, are you suggesting that we have multiple of us doing that, or is what Mark's doing kind of suffice for now?
What Mark's doing is fine, but I don't think it should be anything in contradiction to what Mark is doing, but it
Mhm.
wouldn't hurt for somebody to say, I'm doing this too. And it emphasizes it, and people think, oh yeah, I read something about that, further up or something. I don't think it's any contradiction. Anyway, Mark, do you have any problem with encouraging people to, I mean, in general, not just this particular thing, not just trails, but I mean, my point is that it's a very good forum,
Mhm.
the
Yep.
letters.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had a good response, I think, the last time we did it. I did a letter like last year, I think, about,
Yeah,
it might have been about sort of about the same thing, about the Trails Day. And
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, I mean,
and if other people write in, more's the
Yeah.
better.
Even if even if 6 or 8 people read it and weren't going to do it, and now they're going to do it, that's good for them. But somebody was telling me that there's there's some kind of website that people from out of town write to find out what's going on locally. Do you know anything about that? Find out, outdoor activities locally? No. Okay, because they said that people who responded to out of town people said, don't come. People from the city want to, what can I do up here? Don't come.
Don't go.
Oh, I mean, sometimes like the New Paltz community Facebook group will adopt that type of tone.
That might be it. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, they told me that people were very, very firm. We don't need you here. We've got too many people already. Yeah, it's understandable. I mean,
Janelle.
the fact that you have to go to Saugerties to find a house, I mean, it's a direct result. If it's not for COVID, you probably could have found something affordable here, maybe.
I was just going to briefly, Dan, give an update about the ZBA. Did anybody else sit in on the public hearing for the ZBA regarding the Trans Hudson project
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
recently? Yeah. So I did submit my statement, and they didn't work to get a variance, so now they're trying to get, I gotta get my terminology right, I'm gonna mess it up. The planning board, and now it's with the ZBA, and I'm mentioning this only because there's still an opportunity. I think next month is another public hearing on this issue. And, they're trying to get variances for both the drive-through and not being required to build a second or third story. And it's all part of the gateway zoning.
Mhm.
So it's like we just worked really hard to get that passed, and now immediately trying to get these variances. So
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, I was there, and I was shocked by the owner of that area. He had no interest other than making a profit. It was
Oh, yeah.
perfectly clear. Perfectly clear.
So, and
Oh.
I just wanted to mention it in case anybody else wants to participate in the next zoning board of appeals public hearing. I'm sorry, I don't have the date in front of me. Anybody know what that is offhand? Follows a pattern, but what is it? Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. But if you look on the ZBA on the website, you will find it. And we shall see what happens. I mean, I made the point that there are communities across, I'll find that letter and actually share it with the group. Because, I found some indication in the press that there's communities that are banning new drive-throughs.
Mhm.
Why do we want to add that to New Paltz?
Absolutely.
And
The arguments that was why a right on red came into being was a claim that it was going to save fuel. And the idea that you can make a right on red to sit in a drive-through burger place is just totally absurd. I mean, they never really established a clear methodology how they arrived at that conclusion that it was going to save any fuel, because it's all it did is hurried up cars to the next intersection.
One of the points that I made too is that with COVID, you know, it's restaurants are finding having outdoor dining has become a thing. People like it. It's practical for COVID, but it's also really adds an ambiance. And what a nice place to have outdoor dining right there on the edge of the trail. It could be awesome, but not if you've got idling cars 10 feet away and a great big long line going through a drive-through. So.
Mhm.
Did they present, with the last meeting you went, did they present any other engineering drawings for how that right turn into that property is?
I was double booked that night, so I spoke my bit, but I didn't stay on the whole time, so I can't answer that question, Michael. I don't know.
The last set of submitted drawings showed they were going to cannibalize that section of the Empire State Trail as like a right turn into their parking facility. And then have some kind of, there was no clear indication of how people who wanted to go down Main Street as a bicyclist or a pedestrian were going to go.
Yeah,
pretty
that whole project is it's just such a misguided place to put that much development in that tight little spot, especially when right across the thruway, across the bridge, there's this giant parcel that's already hammered, you know what I mean? That's already developed. It's just a shame. Just a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame that people who own land like that just have such a free hand, and New Paltz has really blocked the worst of things for a long time, such as, you know, the drugstore idea. But people are wavering, and I think one of the reasons that our politicians were wavering was the fear of a lawsuit, which is always a problem. But now that the government is giving the towns and villages and so forth more money, that should not be a big motivating factor. It should really be, you know, the things we've been saying over and over and over again: pollution and traffic jams and all the rest. You know, I think we should continue to fight it. So.
I'm noticing on my calendar actually that the ZBA is the second Wednesday of the month. So that means that in April, it will be Wednesday, April 14th.
All from Camp Luckily.
At 7. So, you know, you can look on the website and just look right now. I couldn't find it.
All from Camp Luckily.
Sorry about that phone sound. Scam.
That was
likely.
That was scam likely.
I was going to turn the volume off, but I'd have to pull my headphones out to grab it.
That's all right. That's funny.
Miss the conversation. Yes. So April 14th, our next let me look up when our next meeting is. We won't be meeting until after then. Fourth Monday is the 26th, right? That our next meeting will be. So our next meeting is actually what, after Celebrate
Trails Day.
Trails Day. So with Celebrate Trails Day, we'll have to, you know, do whatever we do based on editing the draft letter to the editor and pasting a couple sentences onto social media. And feel free, Janelle, if you want to spread the word about that next ZBA meeting, to send a message out to our list to remind people about it if you wish, but it's going to be before we meet again. So maybe we'll have updates post that ZBA meeting, but we won't be able to plug it before then.
Do we know if Shanna, is it Shanna or Shanna?
Shauna is how she pronounces it.
Continue participating with us?
I think so. She, you know, I wrote her, and there's also the other guy, Hans, who I think we shared. He's the ex of Michelle Zip. He was living in Beacon, and he just moved to New Paltz. So Hans is very interested in continuing with our group. He just had a conflict tonight, so he wrote me today to apologize that he couldn't make it. So I expect that that he'll be continuing, and I haven't, I'll double check with Shauna, but I believe she's interested in continuing to, it's always hard to know when we never meet in person. There's not quite as much of a social tie, but yeah, I think that they're interested. And yeah, I mean, in some other aspects of my life, I'm a very good recruiter to lure other people to my activities. They tend to maybe to be easier to lure because they've been things like my tennis group on Sundays or my basketball group, or back in the day, my ultimate Frisbee group. But I haven't necessarily had, been as successful with luring people to our committee, but often, those sort of social connections is what brings people to groups. So if you ever are talking with somebody and they seem pumped up about it, you can put them in touch with me, or just encourage them to join the email list or whatever. But our numbers look like they're actually going up a little bit. So it's not that we're like desperately needing a ton more people, but more is always merrier. So yeah, feel free to do your part to just spread the word through your social networks and any way you can.
I asked, was the logo finalized for the new?
Oh, right.
I mean, it was starting to get kind of clogged up. I mean, I like the simplicity of the earliest iteration, and all of a sudden, there was all a bike had, somebody walking with a stroller was fine, but then all of a sudden, it got more clogged up.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, because it'd be kind of nice to, have that. I mean, if you want me to follow up with Michelle, or
sure, that would be great.
And
Indeed.
just sort of ask her. I mean, how did everybody feel about that last iteration? You want to just go back and look first and see?
Do you have it in front of you to
No, I don't. I'd have to go look for it, but it's in our email. Anyway, we could circulate it again and just say.
Yeah, I'm very disorganized in the paper world, in the physical world, but I'm really organized digitally. So I should be able to dig up that, very quickly. And once I do, I can just move it from my folder over to our shared BikePed Google Drive folder, and then we'll all have access to it.
Then you got something in that letter to the editor page, you could plunk right in there.
Yeah, anything we want, we'll just plunk right in there, and I'll keep it organized. So like I'll only, when you open that Google Drive page, it'll only have kind of the current, I'm not going to let there be like 30 files in it. It'll just have like, half dozen files at most. And then I archive, there's a folder called archive in the folder there and then it's kind of listed chronologically so that we'll all be able to go back and find things from 3 months ago easily too. So yeah, once I find it, I'll just pop it over into our shared folder. The clock strikes a little bit past 8:30, and sometimes Zoom can just keep on going and going unless we pull the plug. So if you're all cool with that, I will end our meeting. We'll adjourn. Thanks for all the things several of you volunteered to do. As you're good at doing, keep in touch. And thanks so much for your active, if brief, stint with us, Lou, and we hope to keep in touch as you are just venturing out a little, but not a long way.
And good luck with your puppy.
Thank you.
Good luck with the new house, Lou.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I am signing off.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.